There's a quiet thief that doesn't steal your memories all at once. It slips in slowly, so gently you might mistake it for ordinary aging. A misplaced key here, a forgotten name there. But what if those small moments aren't just senior moments? What if they're whispers your brain is pleading for help? The difference between losing independence and keeping it often comes down to recognizing the subtle signs before they sharpen into crisis. Meet Evelyn. At 68, she was the life of her book club, the neighbor who remembered every birthday, the grandmother who never missed a bedtime story. But last year, she started noticing little things. A recipe she'd made for decades suddenly felt confusing. The drive to her daughter's house, a route she'd taken 100 times, left her anxious and disoriented. She brushed it off. Just getting older, she said. Until the day she couldn't remember how to use her stove. Not the buttons, not the dials. Just blank. That's when her family realized this wasn't normal aging. This was dementia beginning to rewrite her story. And by then, the window for early intervention had nearly closed. We've been told dementia announces itself with dramatic flair, forgotten faces, wandering streets, shattered lives. But the truth is, it starts much quieter. So quiet you could miss it, unless you know what to watch for. Today, I want to share 3 subtle signs experts say we must never ignore. Not because I want to frighten you, but because I want to arm you. Because catching these signs early could mean years more of independence, connection, and clarity. The first sign isn't forgetfulness. It's losing the thread of conversation. Not just forgetting a word, but struggling to follow a story, a joke, even a simple instruction. Imagine standing in a room where the walls slowly close in, the words around you turning to fog. That's how it felt for Robert, 71, a retired teacher who once commanded classrooms with ease. His wife began noticing he'd nod along to conversations but couldn't participate. He'd laugh at the wrong times, she said. Ask me to repeat the same question minutes apart. He wasn't zoning out. His brain was fighting to keep up, scrambling to fill gaps in understanding. Doctors call this discourse failure, a hallmark of early cognitive decline. But here's the hope. Studies show speech therapy and targeted brain exercises at this stage can slow progression dramatically. The key is to act before isolation sets in. The second sign hides in plain sight, losing your sense of time. Not just missing an appointment, but feeling untethered from the rhythm of days. Clara, 73, a former nurse, prided herself on her punctuality. But her son noticed she'd wear sweaters in July, serve breakfast at dusk, check her mailbox 6 times a day. Time folded in on itself, she told him. Dementia doesn't just steal memories, it unravels the brain's internal clock. You might dismiss it as fatigue or distraction, but researchers say this temporal confusion is one of the earliest red flags. And here's what's vital. Routines like timed meals, sunlight exposure, and simple time-checking habits can help re-anchor the mind, but only if started early. The third sign is the hardest to see, because it's not about what's lost. It's about what's amplified. Sudden outbursts, unshakable suspicions. A once patient man now snapping at grandkids over spilled milk. We often chalk it up to grumpiness, but neurologists warn, unexplained personality shifts are the brain's cry for help. When Sarah's husband of over 50 years' marriage accused her of stealing his wallet, the same wallet he'd misplaced, she laughed it off. But when he hid her keys, convinced she'd abandon him, she knew. This wasn't him. It was the disease twisting fear into fury. The lesson: emotional volatility isn't a character flaw. It's a symptom. And interventions like mindfulness, medication, or even dietary changes can calm the storm if we stop dismissing it as just moodiness. I share these stories not to scare you, but to soften the stigma. To remind you, dementia isn't a moral failure. It's a medical condition. And like any condition, early detection is the difference between helplessness and hope. Imagine if Evelyn had noticed her confusion with recipes sooner. If Robert's wife had recognized his silent struggle in conversations. If Sarah had seen the fear behind her husband's anger. They might have had more time, more good years, to fight back. So let's make a pact. Pay attention to the whispers, the moments that feel off but not alarming, the friend who repeats stories but swears they're new, the parent who insists they're fine but can't explain the dent in their car. These aren't just old age. They're crossroads. And at each crossroad, there's a choice. Wait until it's too late, or step forward with courage. Talk to a doctor. Demand a cognitive screening. Fight for your right to remember. Your mind is worth protecting. Your independence is worth fighting for. And every moment you stay vigilant is another moment you stay you. So tell me in the comments, have you noticed these signs in someone you love? Or maybe in yourself? Let's break the silence together. Because the sooner we face this, the more of life we get to keep. See you in our next video.